Good afternoon. A warm welcome to all audience and participants to this international training and internship program on opportunities for R&D and tech-driven startups. We have started this program on 20th June and now we are moving toward closure of program. So far, we have done 16 webinars, including hands on practical sessions on various domains. We are very much thankful to all experts who have been with us and also to those who will be joining to us next 3 days. This program is organized by Tech Counselor and Tulaz Institute in collaboration with Krishna Institute of Medical Science, deemed to be University, Maharashtra. We are thankful to our sponsors, Uttarakhand Technical University and Uttarakhand Technical University and Bauddhic Venture Ramanujan Academy of Science and Technology, Swachhnir, and to our CSR partners, Kaviraj Foundation, Trites, and Seva. We are organizing this program under a virtual network of Indians, an initiative of Tech Counselor. Today we have Ms. Sakshi Gupta, Assistant Professor at Graphicera University. She will have session on rainwater harvesting. We also have Dr. Sembal with us. Thank you, sir, for your support. And now I request Ms. Monica to take this session.
Thank you, Ms. Renu, for handing over the session to me. I welcome all the participants for the event. Today, we have Ms. Sakshi Gupta, an experienced assistant professor with demonstrated history of working in education management industry. She is skilled in water treatment, water quality, and environmental impact assessment. She is a strong educational professional with masters from IIT Roorkee on water resource and development and management. She has more than 7 years of academic experience and currently working as an assistant professor in Graphic Era University. She has worked on filters in rainwater harvesting for Tanzania and Ghana collaborations with IIT Roorkee. She has been awarded with PS Nigam Nirmala Award for Best Impact Project in Water Resource Management in 2016 from IIT Roorkee. She has a certified qualification for natural hazard, earthquakes, fire breakout from IIT Kanpur, electronic waste management issues and challenges from IIT Kharagpur, plastic waste management again from IIT Kharagpur. Also, she has done geo-environmental engineering, landfills and contaminated site from IIT Delhi. She has more than 8 publications on core water domain on various international peer-reviewed journals. I welcome you, ma'am, in today's international training and internship program, and I am very much hopeful and certain that your vast experience on water domain and rainwater harvesting projects will be helpful for our students and participants to look into a different horizon. This will open up a new perspective for them toward a startup ecosystem for a sustainable development which is in line with SDG goals and Government of India's vision and mission. Welcome Ms. Sakshi Gupta ma'am for this session. Handing over to you ma'am.
Thank you so much to the organizers. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, first of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the organizing team for inviting me to this session. Also, I would like to appreciate the efforts of the organizers for organizing such a wonderful program during this lockdown session. Well, I'm looking forward to this session as well. I'm hoping that more of the audience will be connecting and they will be a bit benefited from this session. So I'm starting my presentation with this. Well, today's topic, which I'm going to take, is regarding issues and challenges on rainwater harvesting. Well, I'm believing that we have the participants from all the backgrounds, so I'll be starting from a bit scratch. Well, what is water? Water is the fundamental element which is very, very important for the sustainable development and above that for the livelihood of everyone. And since it is a human right to have water, so yes, we deserve its access, that too without any discrimination and easily affordable situation for personal as well as domestic use. Also, we know that all of the major civilizations have been flourished around water bodies if we go in the history and ancient times. So water is that important to us. Now, looking over to the current scenario of availability and distribution of water that is across the globe. So, we all know that we have very less freshwater resources, and that is only 2.5% of all the water resources. Rest is saline water, which is 97.5%. So, whatever fight or whatever struggle we are having with the water resources is only for 2.5% of freshwater resources. And out of that 2.5%, even we have about 70% capped in ice and snow. So, the surface water, which we are using for our basic needs regularly, from lakes and rivers or streams, the surface sources, that is only 0.3%. So, all the activities, all our living, all our basic needs, be it cleaning, washing, bathing, cooking, everything that revolves around this 0.3%. Can you imagine the figure 0.3%? Moving ahead, the current scenario of water demand, supply, and rainfall in our country. So we have, we are blessed, I should say, that we are in a tropical monsoon country. But are we utilizing it properly? No, because we don't consider it that useful resource. And what we are doing is we are running behind the development in technology, and we are forgetting that rainwater should be conserved as well. And looking over the current scenario, the way population is increasing, the development is happening, that per capita water availability that is expected and that is actually decreasing. That whatever population we are having, they are deprived of that required amount of water for their basic needs, irrespective of the fact that we are blessed to have such a good amount of annual rainfall. These are certain facts and figures. As you can see clearly, that the per capita availability is predicted to be decreased and the present demand is increasing. That means demand and supply gap is very, very huge. So this is definitely a point of conflict that we are growing. Our demands are increasing, our technology is increasing, so the needs are increasing. But do we have that much amount of water to suffice that need? This is a reality check that basic drinking water is not available to people. There is no water to wash their hands for healthcare facilities. Even talking about current scenario, we are having this COVID-19 pandemic. Right from last 3 months, we have been advised to use our hand wash to wash our hands frequently. So don't you think we are wasting a lot of water? Then what's the agenda? How can we plan the use of water that we can use it effectively and we can even save it for a future generation, because that is what sustainable development is mean to be. The way we are using our resources, it should be in a way that while we are using it, it should be like kept reserved for our future generations too. We cannot use all the resources ourselves only, leaving behind nothing for our coming generations. So this is a reality check that we all should realize what we can do to conserve this situation and to have this water for our future generation too. So, looking over to current scenario globally, water is a human right, and it is also a kind of political ecology or a mean to mint money. So, though we say it is a human right, but are we getting equally in every area of our society? Is every area or sphere of society, be it urban or rural, are getting the water as per the needs, or they are somewhere discriminated between their standards of living or the monetary level? This is what I mean. Water is being considered as a human right, but yes, it is not available to every sector of the society equally. Now, talking about the development which we are heading to at a faster rate, are we actually going for the development for home, and at what cost? Because the dams are being made, they are being set to improve our conditions of water in dry spell and everything, but actually it is reducing the biodiversity. We have the poor water quality, and the greatest example is of Tehri Dam. We all know when Tehri Dam was made, there was a lot of construction, though new theory was set up, but can we exactly say or can we admit to it that actually it has been replicated in the same way we have destroyed the old theory town? This is what development is costing to our society. Now, when we are heading towards a development, obviously we are not left with much of water sources and everything. So we are dependent on the groundwater. But for how much time? Because we don't have the fresh water sources, we don't have the proper water availability, we are not doing any kind of rainwater harvesting. So the ultimate source of water which we are left with is groundwater. And since last 3-4 decades we are actually over exploiting it. So there will be a time when even it will be finished. And you might be reading in the newspapers that even recently Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Chennai, these places have been figured out by the water development authorities that they will run out of groundwater very soon. So it is kind of bank reserve only. We are only taking out, we are not recharging it, we are not crediting any water to it. So obviously there will be a time then this groundwater will also get finished. We are left with desalinated water. Yes, we have ample of water in seas, but that is desalinated. A huge amount is required to get it perfect and to convert it into potable water for our basic needs. So that is also a bit complicated. So the question arises is, as per our population, do we have the sufficient amount of water? If we have that water, what quality we have? Can we use it as a potable water? Potable, I mean drinking water, or for our basic needs. And is it accessible to every sphere of the society? Because that's the most important thing. And this is the only thing which is actually leading to a lot of water wars. So basically, what are the main issues and challenges? See, the multiple demands are increasing for water with our growing technology and development. So naturally, there will be more water stress in future. And the current scenario of climate change that has changed rapidly. It is bringing droughts, floods, tropical cyclones, storms, forest fire, rising sea level, glaciers are melting, but they are going to nowhere. Volcanic eruption, city flooding. So, all these are the things which are actually making the availability of water more difficult. Challenges in urban area. In urban area, what is happening? People are migrating to urban areas, so the population increasing, maybe at times due to the job perspectives or due to the better education facilities. Also, since we are exploiting the groundwater, that is the only source of water available to us, even the groundwater depth is falling. We don't find water table that easily when we are digging for the water perspective. And the most important problem is the growing concrete jungle. The way we are concreting, the pavements are increasing. There is no one line floor that automatically reduces the infiltration of rainwater. Yes, you heard it right. Infiltration of rainwater. When we have unlined area, what happens is that water, whichever is falling, be it through a runoff, a storm runoff, or the rainwater falling, if that particular land area is unlined, then definitely that rainfall will infiltrate to the ground, and that will be like in addition to the groundwater table. But that is not happening in urban areas due to the growing concrete pavement areas. So that is also a biggest challenge in urban area. That means we cannot stop that concrete area. We cannot stop making that institutions and buildings, homes, everything. But what we can do is we can plan for a rainwater harvesting in the individual house only. That is the most possible solution in urban areas. So, what we are left with is we are left with development of such techniques which can harvest every possible form of water, from rainwater to groundwater, from stream to river water, and even flood water. Because if flood water will be managed properly and we are using it for the groundwater recharge, we can solve two purposes. We can control the destruction which is caused by floods. We can even recharge our groundwater and our aquifers. So, what can we do? Yes, we can conserve and save what our planet is providing us naturally. That is rainwater. So, I would like to ask audience one question. They can reply in the comment section. Which place in India gets the maximum rainfall and the place getting minimum rainfall? The answers can be taken in the last, but I would like to know from the audience the place which is getting maximum rainfall in India and the place which is getting least rainfall in India. Because before planning for the rainwater harvesting, we should definitely know what amount of rainwater is actually available to us. Well, going little back towards our roots, we all have been hearing our elders and parents at some point of life that wherever you go following your aims, never forget your roots. Yes, we should never forget our roots, our origin from where we have evolved. And that somewhere goes correct for this condition as well because Indians have historically been the world's greatest water harvesters. And there is a book, Dying Wisdom, which was written long back, like in 97, 23 years back, but it still holds the truth. A society which tries to move ahead without keeping itself firmly rooted in its own traditions tends to fall. Yes, here it directly means that we have forgotten our roots, that we were the greatest water harvesters in the world. And now we are not even using that natural source of water, rain, and somewhere being blessed to be in a tropical monsoon country having a good annual rainfall, we all are still deprived of water sources for our basic needs. Even from the Mughal region, Mughal times, there has been a lot of supply of water for irrigation, drinking, domestic, and industrial purposes by these harvesting practices only. Talking about Indus Valley civilization, yes, we had storm water drains. Can you imagine the storm water management we are talking right now? It is in the practice in Indian culture since Indus Valley civilization. Also, the Ahar and Pine system from East Bihar. What is this? This is a kind of pit being dig, and what happens is they can collect the rainwater here and which can be used during the dry spells. Then Zabu or Rusa system from Nagaland. As you can see, these are some steps made. What happens is, creating these steps, you are creating an obstacle, so the water that is after falling on the ground converting into runoff, that will not go wasted. It will be having an obstruction, the velocity will reduce, and it will enhance the agricultural productivity, crop yield. So it is being practiced in Nagaland. Talking about Meghalaya, bamboo drip irrigation. As you can see, obviously this is about the ancient times when we were called the world's greatest harvesters of water. So we were not having pipelines which we have in current decades. So what they use is bamboo sticks, and these were used, they was laid as the pipelines are laid today, and the water was being carried to the required places. And step fills and chalras from Rajasthan. These are again the pit which have been dug below, and the water can be collected after the rainfall takes place, and people through these steps can easily reach to it. So these are the practices from our ancient India. So far this was all about the basic problems which are occurring in our country or globally, and what we can do with the current scenario. So what is rainwater harvesting? It is basically collection of water directly where it is falling, or by collecting that water and diverting it so that it can be recharged into the ground, and we can improve the groundwater storage. Talking about potential of rainwater harvesting. Well, the basic problem is we are saying that we are forgetting our roots of rainwater harvesting. The problem is the mindset of people. People don't realize the potential of rainwater harvesting, or maybe they think this is just a simple thing. How can we use this particular water after harvesting for so much of needs in our day-to-day life? But that is somewhere the myth in their minds. It has a very good potential. India receives most of its rainfall in just 100 hours out of 8,760 hours in a year. And if we are able to capture this water, there will be no problem for the entire year during the dry spell. And also, it has been predicted by the authorities and the Water Development and Ministry of Water Resources, which are working on these conditions, that if only 1% of India's land area is used for rainwater harvesting, all the household needs can be met. This is the potential of rainwater harvesting. That by doing a little bit, we can conserve and preserve our water resources for our basic needs during the dry spells. And the amount of rainfall is definitely not possible. Potential. The amount here signifies that it is definitely not possible, whatever amount of rainfall is falling, that we will be able to collect all the water due to many natural factors like evaporation and the permeability of the area that actually signifies by runoff coefficient. That means whatever area the rainfall is falling, is it allowing to turn it into a runoff or is it absorbing? So that way the runoff varies. And first flush wastage. Now, I would like to talk about this first flush part. What happens is when we are talking about rainwater harvesting, though rainwater is considered to be the natural and purest form of water occurring in nature, but when this raindrops fall from our atmosphere, there is lot of clouds over there and lot of air pollution. So these drops dissolve these gases and all harmful chemicals present there, and when it actually falls on the ground, it has lot of contaminants. So it is always advised that whenever we are initiating any rainwater harvesting plan, we never collect the first rainfall of the season. That is called as first flush, because the water which is being collected after first rainfall, we flush it, because we believe that it will be having maximum number of toxins, because it is happening for the first time. It will be washing all those materials present in the atmosphere. Also, the catchment area or the roof, or I should say in a simple language, the area which is collecting that rainfall, that will be having certain impurities. So to avoid all those contaminants in our collection of rainwater for that particular season, we go for the first flush. So basically, the net potential of water harvesting is given by the amount of rainfall falling in meter into the area in square meter and the collection efficiency of the area. Collection efficiency means, again, what I meant was if the area is permeable or impermeable. So that is what the potential is. Coming to rainwater harvesting types, these are majorly of three types. One is rooftop rainwater harvesting, where we are using it in our domestic area or institutional buildings. That is mostly about urban areas. Then land based open area, where we have a land and we can divert the water for the groundwater recharge. And watershed based rainwater harvesting. But when we are talking about the urban area, we are only left with the rooftop rainwater harvesting, and for rural areas, mostly used is land based open area. Coming to methods of rooftop rainwater harvesting, basically, if we are doing rooftop rainwater harvesting, rooftop means whatever rooftops we are having, the water which is falling after the rain over the roofs, we collect that water and through down pipes, it is brought to the collection unit. We can recharge our pits through it. We can recharge trenches. We can bore the wells. Again, it will be recharging the wells. Recharge shafts. There can be some abandoned wells which are deprived of water currently due to overuse. We can recharge that. We can make open pits and we can divert our rainwater to that pit so that the groundwater beneath can be recharged. We have recharge wells and we have hand pumps. Basically, the main components in a rooftop rainwater system are roof catchment, gutter, downpipe, rainwater or stormwater drains, filter chamber, and groundwater recharge structure, which can be a pit or it can be a well. From the figure, I can explain you. This can be a building. For example, the rooftop is used as the rooftop catchment area. These are the gutters which are being connected, you must have seen them in a sloping roof, mostly in hilly areas. So these kind of gutters are used here. And water, it is a sloping roof, water will come here. Through this gutter, the water will be coming through down pipes. Further, a filter can be used, and finally going to a recharge structure, which can be a pit, a sump, or a well. Talking about this filter portion, when we are doing rooftop rainwater harvesting, obviously be it in urban area or rural area, we don't want to go for a cost, because it is planned according to the economical perspective. So this filter is can be a rapid sand filter, which we can make by simply sand, which can act as a filter bed, then supported by a gravel bed, and we can use some coal. That is a part of like activated carbon which we are using in our modern RO systems. Basically, that is carbon only, which removes all kind of dirt and contamination. So in our filter system, what we do is we can add charcoal, which is a very good source of carbon. Well, talking about the benefits of rainwater harvesting. Well, we have ample number of rainwater harvesting benefits, which maybe people overlook sometimes. It is actually the ideal solution for water problem in many areas, especially like in agricultural areas, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and they are doing very well in in rural areas for their crop yield and agricultural productivity by using water harvesting structures. The groundwater level will rise. Yes, when we will be diverting the rooftop water and recharge will be taking place, the groundwater level will automatically rise. Obviously, it will not happen in one day, it will take years of practice, but yes, that groundwater level, which we are saying is falling these days now, it can be increased if we start from now onwards. It will mitigate the effects of drought. Naturally, when we will be having certain reserve in form of collected water either in pit or well, the drought conditions which occur in a dry spell, because that is a natural factor which cannot be controlled. But obviously, when we will be having some reserve of water, we can control, we can negotiate with those effects. So there will be not a complete loss with that in condition of drought. Then it reduces the runoff, which chokes the stormwater drains and reduces flooding of roads. Well, talking about Mumbai, Bangalore, which do not have a proper drain off system even today. And we all have seen in news during monsoon that these places are flooded with roads after rainfall. So, if we are collecting that water, we are diverting that water for a good cause, then definitely these flooding and choking of the drains can be controlled. Quality of water improves. Now, this must be a question for you all. How can rainwater harvesting improve the quality? Well, when we are talking about the quality of water improves, it's simple dilution due to dilution of the rainwater. Now, I'll just give a simple example. During this lockdown, everyone is cooking, everyone is a cook expert now. What happens when salt gets increased in your some dal or sabji? What you do? You will add some more water to decrease the effect of that salt. Basically, you are diluting that salt part. Salt is your contaminant, and you are diluting its effect by adding more water. That simply means by the quality of water improves, because we say due to industries discharge, they are not following proper bylaws. Our groundwater resources are getting contaminated. So, what's the solution for that? What we can do is when we are recharging our groundwater, definitely you are diluting the effect of those contaminants. So, obviously, the quality of water will improve to much extent. And also, when we are conserving water properly, the soil erosion will be reduced because there will be a proper vegetative cover, proper agriculture, which is absent due to the scarcity of water, and hence soil erosion will be reduced. So, just by saving drop of water, we can have these much benefits from rainwater harvesting. Now, the factors which are to be taken into consideration for rainwater harvesting practices. Yes, these are very important before we plan to go for a rainwater harvesting project, because every area is not same, every location is not same. It can have different rainfall pattern because there are some places which have very good amount of rainfall, and there are places which have very small rainfall. So as I asked you, which is the place which gets maximum rainfall in India? So it's Mawsyn Ram in Meghalaya that gets maximum rainfall in India across the year. And the place which gets least rainfall, that is somewhere in Ladakh region currently, and it has very very less rainfall annually, hardly 15 to 20 per year. And talking about Mawsyn Ram, it gets around more than 1100 per year. So this is the wide disparity between the rainfall pattern. So before going for the rainwater harvesting practices, we should have a proper idea about the area, about the rainfall pattern, about its intensity, and the characteristics of soil, if it is permeable or impermeable, because that will automatically affect the runoff generated. And the catchment area means the area which we are using for diverting the runoff. Planning of rainwater harvesting project. The demand of the region means if it is a agricultural area, demand will definitely be more. Existing source means there must be some existing source like canal or something which they are using. So accordingly you can plan the need for that particular upcoming project. The rainfall pattern, the geological strata, that will count the soil type and everything. Storage capacity, how much water you can store there. That means we are talking about the natural storage capacity, that is aquifers where groundwater is stored, and the recharge areas available, because somewhere we will be diverting our water to those areas. Now, what are the things which are needed for the implementation of rainwater harvesting works? These all three factors: motivation of the people, incentive by the government and administration, and formation of rules and laws. These all need to be go hand in hand for a better rainwater harvesting project or practice. Why? Because going by the first point, motivation of the people, most of the people are not convinced, they are not ready to adopt harvesting practices despite the laws of having a rainwater harvesting installation at their homes by several development authorities including Tamil Nadu, Kochi, Kerala, Bangalore, Gurgaon, Dehradun. People are not ready to install those things. That is only on the paper. So there should be a motivation among the people. They are not convinced. And somewhere, if people are ready, they don't have incentives, they don't have the financial assistance. So there should be proper motivation, government facilities in terms of finances, and formation of rules and laws if someone is abiding by the law or not. Then only we can have a proper implementation of rainwater harvesting works. Now, talking about the issues related to social movement, people need to be educated. Why? Because when we are talking about rural and urban area both, I'm repeating again, urban even. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll show you some cases where most of the people are from the urban areas which are not into rainwater harvesting practices compared to the people living in rural areas. So they need to be educated more, ironically. So people need to be educated for adopting these conservation practices. There should be a proper management and team, a group which can involve the policymakers. Media even plays a very important role, and the technical persons for any particular reason. A proper coordination between government sector and NGO, because at times NGOs are into these practices but government don't support them. So they should go hand in hand. Also, it should be clear from the beginning, as I said in my earlier slide too, it is not a process of one day. If we are starting recharging today, it will take about 10 to 15 years so that we can have that much amount of water available, because we are using since decades. How can we expect that just today we started rainwater harvesting and we can have that amount of water back to us again? Obviously, it will a time taking process, so we should be prepared for that we don't get result instantly. That is what human nature is, that we want results instantly the moment we are doing something. So it doesn't work like that. Also, the extent of the problem should be known, right? Whatever the particular area is going through, and there should be a quality of work. There should be various types of filters. As I stated in my that earlier slide, filters are very important because the water we are obtaining is not pure due to the surroundings and circumstances. So there should be proper filters which can actually clear the water before its use. Then precaution and maintenance of filters, because if we are not maintaining it properly, we are not using proper measures or obstructions to avoid the undesirable substances, naturally its cost will increase. Maintenance of roof, yes, as I indicated, first flush, so roofs should be cleaned time to time as well to avoid any contamination. And the quality of water, that means we should, the people who we want to practice these rainwater harvesting projects, we should be convinced about the quality of water, what kind of quality we are getting. Obviously, due to natural factors, we won't get the natural quality with which it occurs in the nature, but yes, we can work upon it. So these are some filters and studies which I have carried out in collaboration with IIT Roorkee. What we have done is we have used this charcoal, which was washed, dried, and used, and we used these cylinders for making those filters. This was actually a test. This was the work we did for Tanzania, where we have made these filters to test like how much impurities it can retain. And the layers were made by gravel, by sand, and those particular layers were separated by these polyethylene sheets. And if you can see, there are holes in it so that the water can pass through it, but it can retain the impurity. And we also use these Syntex tank so that you can see the difference in the size. Why? Because the depth of the material we are using has a very important role over the quality of water obtained. That means the water we are collecting from the rooftops, that is coming from the downpipes, and we are collecting it through the filters. Finally, we get the water after filtration. So the size of the media will be different here, it will be different here. So we have worked, this was for Ghana, we have worked on several filters with varying depths so that we can plan a proper design which can give us the better quality of water. So this was our work, and this was how we tested the efficiency of filter. We artificially created the water by Fuller's earth. Fuller's earth, we commonly called as Multani mitti. We dissolved certain amount of that Fuller earth into water. We created these hypothetical solutions. Then we checked the original turbidity of that, and we allowed this water to pass through these filters. These are of different diameter, if you can see, and these are of different length as well. So naturally, it means the size is different. Layer of the material was also different. We allow this water to pass through them, and we calculated the final turbidity. If you can see in this figure, this is 1.52 NT. And as per the Indian standards of drinking water specifications, the drinking water should have a maximum turbidity of up to 5 NTU. That means it is able to reduce that turbidity, because initially we made solutions of 60 and 100 NTU, and we reduced it to 1.52 NTU. So this was the efficiency of filter, which we obtained very high. Now, that was about the quality of water. What does Ministry of Water Resources says? So it says that we already have 2 lakh existing but defunct drinking water irrigation wells. Yes, we have those bore wells and everything, but they are being abandoned, lying abandoned, are not used. So they say we should use them. We should rehabilitate all the ancient rainwater harvesting structures. Also, rooftop rainwater harvesting and recharge should be made mandatory in all urban dwellings. Obviously, following this, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand, all these development authorities have started the building bylaws with certain area restriction. Like in Dehradun, it is 125 square meter area. If a place is to be built in this much area, it is mandatory to have a rainwater harvesting installation. But I don't think anyone is following that properly. And same is the case in every state. Despite the law of government, people are not being motivated. That's what the factor was. Also, there should be legal provisions to regulate the indiscriminate boring of wells. Yes, the study of proper strata in geology is very important. We cannot dig or bore wells anywhere. So, installation of these facilities should be properly. Also, there should be some organizations constituted so that these projects can be handled right from the concept to completion stages. For expanding further scope, we also need industrial houses to participate in the work so that they can adopt the nearby towns and villages to provide financial support. Because what industries do, they can not only provide employment to the people there while doing that labor work for construction, but also they can have some financial support to these people. I will show you a case study later on. Government organizations should be facilitators. There should be national and state level water harvesting measures using existing or defunct wells. There should be rural drinking water wells with recharge facilities, rehabilitation of housing dying village ponds. Means these are the ponds which are now only used as a compost pit maybe or a dumping place for all kind of solid waste, but these are actually the village ponds which can be rehabilitated to be used as a percolation tank. We can divert the rainwater there and groundwater will be recharged. And design and construction of 200 percolation tanks, 5,000 check dams, and 1,000 subsurface dikes. Now, I'll show you some challenged rainwater harvesting practices going across the country. This was in 2015 when Tamil Nadu was actually, I should say, in a dilemma that they were successful in rainwater harvesting plants, because recently we have seen the condition of Chennai getting deprived of all sort of groundwater, and they were having quite tough time managing their basic needs of water. So in 2015, they were happy that they have devised the methods and they are already there when other states are actually talking about it. But that was the drawback, was it was all in the paper. Uh, to tell you clearly, in 2001, late CM Jayalalitha ji, she started with the rainwater harvesting bylaws in Tamil Nadu. People did work on that, but due to lack of proper guidance and everything, till 15 years ago, rainwater harvesting bylaws were not implemented. Now, the very successfully was in 2019. Means till 15 years they were in the process of implementing it. But no one did those things very well. Practiced it properly. There were faults in the design. So even after having the bylaws for rainwater harvesting installations in their state, there was a heavy problem of groundwater in Chennai. See, 16 years after landmark rainwater harvesting, Chennai thirsts for water. What was the reason for it? There were broken pipes, clogged pipes, badly maintained bore pits, drains, incorrect rainwater harvesting structures. This calls for the quality of construction. Now, see, this was the things they did a mistake. What they did was, in this they made this borehole for that groundwater recharge. But what will happen here is, this is a very very narrow pipe. Obviously, it will get clogged very very soon. So it's the failure. Again, this is a type of structure where we have that much width which can work properly without getting clogged easily, but the quality will be a matter because there is no filter, there is no mesh to clear out the undesirable substances. These are the things which were being practiced in Chennai, and these figures are taken from a government project from Tamil Nadu. Now, talking about the role of media, I guess everyone must be knowing about that Kiki challenge American comedian had some 2 years back. So people go mad about it. So what Tamil Nadu government did, they started with this open media challenge. What they did was there were total number of 1.93 lakh rain water harvesting structures in Chennai. So what they said was, as per Times of India, what they did was they asked the people, the residents there, to click a photograph with a rainwater harvesting structure, cleaning their terrace or checking the pipelines or checking the rainwater harvesting system, and they have to post the photograph on Facebook and any social media, then paintings, drawings, painting competitions related to rainwater harvesting, and they declared prizes for that. They even said social media challenge participants will get badges, and three participants from each zone will get prizes. So, yes, this role of media definitely brought a very good change there. So people were more inclined towards it. The young generation, I should say, those who were not aware about the importance and potential of rainwater harvesting, they started taking interest in that due to this media challenge. Now about Bengaluru, as per the laws, yes, the bylaws says we should have rainwater harvesting structures there, but again, people don't want that. They are happy to pay the fine for that if they are being checked by the authorities, but they don't want any rainwater harvesting installation there. And very soon, even it is going to be deprived of groundwater as per the latest report of MOWR. This is the figure from Bangalore, where 64,000 homes in city are not having the rainwater harvesting structures, despite the bylaws of having the rainwater harvesting installations. So even Bengaluru slips in rainwater harvesting, despite 59,000 structures to be installed yet. Talking so far, we have talked about the urban areas. Now going to the rural areas, as we were saying about motivation of the people. So in Andhra Pradesh, there is a NGO, small school run by NGO. What they have done there, they are using the rooftop rainwater after harvesting, and they are treating it by using a normal rapid sun filter. As I told you, I should say sand filter, and they are using it for growing the basic crops like kitchen garden. They have made it, and they are yielding very good crop yield out of it, and they are even selected for the national award in water conservation category. This is the difference between urban and rural area and the thinking of the people there. This is one from the government building of Andhra Pradesh where they are digging a recharge pit. Now, the main problem talking about coaching, most of the states are having these bylaws, but people are adamant, they are not convinced, they don't realize the problem and potential that groundwater is going to decline. Every year it is declining, and what we can do with the rainwater. Even in Kochi, there was a scheme driven by, it's known as Amrit Rainwater Harvesting Scheme, Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, where 1,200 people's beneficiaries were selected, and the cost of the project was only 11,000, and out of which a person was only supposed to give 2,750. The rest of the amount was to be taken by that scheme, but still out of 1,200, only 80 applications. See the difference, 80 out of 1,200 they received for that particular installation of rainwater scheme. That's the problem behind the mindset of people. This is a case from Kochi. Then talking about Rajasthan, yeah, they have started this work a bit and they are following it properly, but again, it is in the rural areas only. This is a very good example from Rajasthan. This is a village in Jhunjhunwala from Jaipur, where they have digging the local people only, the community people, a 13-foot deep underground tank, and it can store 20,000 liters of rainwater. You can see these down pipes are coming from the roof and they are being taken to this underground tank. So obviously, during their dry spells, These people can use this water. This has been done without any NGO support, without any government support, and people living there did it themselves. This is back from 2015 and 14 that Punjab was planning to promote rainwater harvesting to check depleting water table. So again, they have planned it, they have given the laws, but the question remains same. Will people follow that when new constructions are coming up? That is the main problem. This is an example from Mewat, Haryana. There was a school there that is still there. And what was the problem there? There was a saline groundwater. And the students studying there, the teachers teaching there, they used to either bring water from their places. That is a water scarce region. And they don't used to drink water for the whole day because that school didn't have any water facility there due to the salinity of the water present there. What they did was, at the roof of the school, they made a rooftop catchment. They diverted the water through down pipes and they made a tank over there. This is actually a biosand filter. This is a filter over here because through a biosand filter, they are actually removing all the contaminants. And what is this is? This is basically the saline water zone. Actually, what happens is when groundwater is exploited beyond limitations, what will happen is there will be less water. And during that less water condition, because aquifer has a tendency to absorb the water. So you might have heard about the term sea water intrusion. And I should say in a simple language that reverse osmosis phenomenon. What will happen? It has a tendency to absorb the water. So it will absorb the water from the nearby places, be it seawater, be it from sand. So what was happening in that place was the condition of the underground water was declining and it was absorbing water from the nearby areas. So it converted into saline water, and due to the saline water, when the fresh water will go in the aquifer after recharging, there was a tendency that it will be mixed with the saline water due to that RO phenomenon. So what they did was that was done under a local foundation, Sehgal Foundation NGO, Mr. Lalit Mohan Sharma. He dug a very deep one below the saline water range. That means the fresh water was below the saline water. And whenever the students or the people are utilizing that water, that is not mixed with the saline water. So, what they did was they had a very deep borehole for the recharging so that the fresh water and the saline water can be kept separated. So, this was a freshwater pocket created separately in a saline aquifer so that the salt is not coming to the water. And due to this, the students there are very happy. They don't have to move back to their respective homes for drinking the water. This is from the village in Mewat, Haryana. This is the condition of Gurugram, where we have waterlogged. We were talking about the storm water and flooded roads of the urban areas. So this is happening there. If we will be having proper drain management, this water can be diverted to the groundwater recharge facilities. Again, talking about Dehradun, as I said, even here, groundwater is decreasing. Obviously, we are not recharging it anywhere, so it will get finished one day. So, as per the MDDA authorities, they have made a bylaw that a house which is more than or equivalent to 125 square meters, it should have a rainwater harvesting facility. But yes, they are not having it. Now, what is the problem so far? What we are doing is, from the examples you might have seen, that people are practicing it in rural areas. But in urban areas, we are just moving behind the development, latest technologies. And what we are doing is we are neglecting the old proven water technologies which actually can bring the sustainable solution to the current water problems, because our society is only moving ahead without being rooted to the old traditions. So here comes the role of rainwater harvesting. Now I'll take you to some figures which are the best practices of rainwater harvesting in different parts of India and which is actually leading to the sustainable development. Most of them are NGO initiatives. This is Andhra Pradesh. They have protected a spring source because during rainfall and precipitation, what happens is water flow, water flows freely, and they have protected the spring source. There is a shared groundwater joint borehole, which the farmers living in that area have made themselves. This is from Andaman and Nicobar. They use traditional method of rainwater harvesting. They have tied these spots, and the rainwater will fall and get collected in these. This is from Arunachal Pradesh. As you can see, this is what somewhat similar to that Nagaland Rusa system. What is happening over here is they have made these obstructions of terrace kind of thing, and what they are doing is they are these are called bunds or obstruction. They have made it, and they are collecting the water inside it. So this is not only percolating the water, recharging the water, but it is also preventing soil erosion. Now this is again, they have collected the water on the surface. This was on a hilly terrain, this is a plain terrain. And what they are doing is they are doing the paddy cultivation. Paddy is actually rice cultivation. We all know it requires lot of water. So the area used to be scarce in the rainfall or due to lack of availability of water, but they are protecting and they are saving the water, and they are doing this fish as well as paddy cultivation. Talking about Chhattisgarh, here also this is spring water management. They have diverted water from the spring and it is being used for the drinking purposes. And some at some other places they have also made a storage pit where water can be used as per the requirement, and also it can be used for the groundwater recharge. Now talking about Ladakh. He is the one who is known as Iceman of India. I don't know if many of you might be knowing about him. He is a retired civil engineer. This place earlier used to be in Jammu. This man belongs to Jammu, and he is a 85-year-old man, and he is a Padam Shri awardee for these techniques he did in Ladakh. As I told you in the beginning, that Ladakh is the place having minimum rainfall in entire India. So what he did was he made artificial glaciers, and the water which was melting from the actual glaciers, he brought that water by diverting through the streams, and he created these artificial glaciers so that this water can be used for the agricultural facilities during the dry spells of the year. And you will be surprised that the largest artificial glacier he made was 1000 feet long, 150 feet wide, and 4 feet in depth. Even a documentary film has been made for his achievement. And due to his this work, he has been called as Iceman of India, and he has increased the agricultural production in the nearby areas. We are living a more prosperous life. This is a job of one man only, and the cost for making one glacier was 90,000. And he has so far made about 17 or 18 glaciers, and the agricultural conditions have increased beyond expectations in the area. This is Jharkhand. This is increasing storage capacity of check dam. They have made these check dams. Water will come over here and it will be retained there. This is from a school in Ranchi, Loreto Convent School, where this is an abandoned well. And what they are doing is they are diverting the collected rainwater over here, which will actually recharge this well. You can see it is full with mud and all kind of things because it is an abandoned well. But by recharging it, we can have very good amount of water over here. This is construction of dug well. Again, this is construction of check dam at varied places. This is all from nearby villages of Ranchi. Now, this man, he is from a village in Jharkhand, that is a Beru block in Ranchi area only, and he is a 85 years old man, a Padam Shri awardee in 2016. What he did was he did a mass plantation of trees, and mass plantation of trees to divert the rainwater, to use that water for the better agricultural facilities. And now the residents of nearby 51 villages of that district, they owe to him for the agricultural prosperity. And today 25,000 metric tons of vegetables are being supplied due to this 51 villages. The work this man did. So he's a farmer, and by doing these practices, he has turned the fortune of the people living there. Now, talking about Karnataka, there's a farm pond again. What they have done is they have dug this farm pond and they are diverting the rainwater and it is being collected. This water will be getting infiltrated and it will be the recharge over there. Kerala, this was again an abandoned well and it is being utilized by now the community people and it is used for the recharge facility. Madhya Pradesh, then again same, there are some ponds, recharge pits, and these are farm ponds which are being used for the improved irrigational facilities. Maharashtra, nalas or trench we commonly say, which are actually used for the dumping of wastewater. What happens here is they have utilized these nalas and these pits which are being used to collect the rainwater and it is ensuring the water security. This is deep continuous contour trench. They have digged it. This is a continuous contour trench. It is not only retaining the water but also enhancing the crop yield. This is a dug well which is connected through an inlet pipe. That means this pipe is bringing the water harvested and it is recharging the groundwater. And this is percolation tank. This is again a tank which has been made obviously without the lining in the base so that water can percolate and it can recharge the groundwater. This work is from Maharashtra. Again in Maharashtra only, this is some Varda district. This is a river which has been rejuvenated, which was lying dry and used as a dumping place for the waste. This is the construction of recharge pit. This is Bori Bandh. Bandh we say to the dam, which is actually restricting the water. So as it is in not an urban area and it is a rural area, there might be problems with finances. What they have done is they have used these sacks for the retaining of water. So it is called as Bori Ban and they are well able to store this water and retain this water. This is again from a village where percolation tank has been made. This is a check dam and this is watershed development where this trench is being used. This is somewhere near Pune and this is being done by the local resident by using a NGO facility, Mr. Bhajandas Vitthal Pawar. Now, talking about the role of influential people. This is what Pani Foundation did, which is being headed by Amir Khan and Kiran Rao. What they did was, initially they took three talukas with 116 villages, and they started with these ponds, farm ponds, and the areas which can harvest the water and which can retain the water. But with the success of that, and in the next 2 years, it included a lot more of villages, which is now 4,032 villages. And specifically to mention, these all areas in talukas are the worst drought hit areas. And it includes now four regions of Maharashtra: Marathwada, Vidarbha, North Maharashtra, and Western Maharashtra. And these villages, after doing these practices by the help of finances through this Pani Foundation, they created a storage capacity of 10,000 crore liters of water. Now, when it rained last year there, what happened was the water which was falling on the ground, every drop was saved there, which never happened in years because the area was the worst drought hit area. And a total of 1368 crore liter of water was created. And surprisingly, if we are not having water, even in our areas, what we do, we rely on the water tankers. And obviously, the cost of one tank will differ from area to area. At my place, I should say it is coming at a cost of 300 or 400 for one tanker. So it may vary from different places. So what they did with this storage was they saved amount of 272 crores annually. Means by doing these rain harvesting works, now you can see the potential of this rainwater harvesting, what impact and what sustainable development it is bringing to the society. Because the areas which were worst hit by the drought, and Marathawada tops in that, you might have been reading in the newspapers. So now they are able to conserve that water, and they are able to use that water without the help of any water tanker, and they have saved even 272 crores annually. This is a Saguna rice technique being practiced in Maharashtra. uh, Let me tell you one thing, I should clearly mention this is a rice technique, and if you can see the figure, there are no waterlogging in the field. We all know that water grows in the flooded fields, but this is what this rice technique is. This is a place where there is scarcity of water, and what technique they use was they used to have trenches in the surroundings, and then they have grown this paddy, and this is growing on a hilly area, means a high terrain. This is not a flooded field on the surface. This is Saguna rice technique. This is being practiced by this person over there. This is also from Maharashtra. Talking about Punjab, I don't know how many might have read about him. See, this was done by the Ek Omkar Charitable Trust, headed by Sant Balbir Singh Sichewal. What he did was Holy Bean River near Lodhi and Sultanpur area, which was being used to dump the wastewater only. What he did was he started following four processes. First of all, he used some meshes, जो like जालियां जो आप कहते हैं, so that meshes were used to restrict these undesirable objects. Then there was a pond created where sedimentation took place so that all the sediment can settle there. Then that water was diverted through these pipes, and it is being used by the communities in the area around. So this is what this community did, and this was under a trust only. And this Bean River, which was considered to be holy once and was being used to dump wastewater, is now giving water to many people in the surroundings and communities for a better agricultural facilities. This was also from Punjab only. This is in Mansa somewhere. And what they did was there was no proper facility for the septic tanks. Now, what was happening? Whatever wastewater was being generated in the village, that was directly being dumped into the river. So, this water was to be avoided from going to the river, so that particular river water can be used properly. So, what was done there? It was like septic tanks were created so that wastewater is not being taken to that pond, and that pond was revived and was used as a recharging structure. And this was even recognized, and it won a national award by Union Ministry of Rural Development for the year 2015 to 16. It not only gave the employment to the people but also rectified the problem of rainwater harvesting. This was what I meant by the involvement of the NGO and the local industries. This is Rajasthan. This is something Chauka system, where different areas are being created so that water can store. Now, this is also a good example of that. This is from Ajmer, Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti. So, Jhalra, as I was talking in the beginning, Jhalra is a structure which was being used traditionally in Rajasthan for the water facilities, recharging facilities. It was dried, and all kind of dump was being thrown into that. But what happened was, after it got dried up in July 2007, the Dargah committee only, they decided to clean it. This is the photograph after the cleaning and having the water harvested there after a rainfall. What the committee with the local traditional laborers did, they dug it for around 6,000 square feet area of Jhalra, and 22 feet was dug. The debris were removed and openings were clear. So it resulted into this thing by community participation. This is Umaid Heritage Real Estate. This is sustainable stormwater management. It not only collects runoff, and minimizes waterlogging in the area as well. The rainwater is collected from the open areas. As you can see the structure, this is the top view. This is a step-like structure. What will happen is the water will be coming from the upper side, upstream side, and it will be collected towards the downstream side. So it will be saving the stormwater runoff, it will be collecting the rainwater, and what it has resulted into is groundwater extraction has reduced by 50%, and they were also dependent on water tankers nearby areas. So they have saved about 2.36 crores annually, and this was even selected as best practice in water management by Niti Aayog in August 2017. This is Telangana. A retired scientist, he has been doing rainwater harvesting since 2 decades himself in his home. Now you can see here the filter I meant. This is a mesh they are used, then this is gravel and it is sand in between. So this is a normal filter. These are down pipes which are bringing the water, and this water is being taken to the underground tank. So they are using it for their daily use, drinking, cooking, and he even takes workshops in the neighborhood so that people can take ideas from his work. And he has been practicing these things since 2 decades. Talking about Uttarakhand, this is from Pauri district where Mr. Bharti he created a green mountain from a barren land, and using this charcoal method where small percolation pits are dug and grass trees are planted around it, so it not only collects the rainwater but it also improves the soil erosion problem. So it will prevent soil erosion, it will prevent soil from being washed away, and it is also collecting the water in the percolation pits. This is called as charcoal method, and it is practiced in Pauri district. This is some photograph from Uttar Pradesh, Bundelkhand area, where the barren lands or the abandoned places were revived again. This is water-filled pond in Jhatni village. Local people are checking it. This is from Jhansi, where 6 check dams and 15 farm ponds were renovated, and recharging of 100 wells was done. Now coming to the concluding remarks. As we have seen from all the figures, for implementation of rainwater harvesting projects, it is very, very important that people are motivated. There is certain incentives, be it the role of media, some prizes from some challenges, or some government funding or industries funding, and rules and bylaws by the government. And there should be no other way except people's participation. Participation is very, very important. Then the government, media, and technical persons, public representatives like NGO people, that is very important. A proper planning of work is important. Assessment of resources. What surface water is available, what groundwater is available, what kind of strata is available there, permeable or impermeable. Then safety of structures. It should not be like that a well is being made and it is not covered and children are falling in it. Safety is also very important. Then quality in terms of construction and groundwater both. Why construction? As you might have seen in that slide, where some bore pipe was used and which was very narrow. So quality of construction is very important. Silting should be removed from time to time. Then sense of belongingness. People should have confidence and trust over the practices which they are doing, because it is a time taking process. Maintenance and repair, that will all lead to the sustainability. I'd like to end with this. अल्पनामपि वस्तुनाम संहति कार्य साधिका त्रिने गुणत मावपने बध्यन्ति मददंतिना. अल्प पानी, एक बूंद भी बहुत काफी होती है. एक छोटा सा प्रयास आपका काफी होगा अगर आपको कोई बड़ा कार्य पूरा करना है. और एक तिनके और घास से बनी हुई आपकी जो छड़ी होगी वो भी एक हाथी को काबू कर सकती है. दैट मीन्स एवरी ड्रॉप काउंट्स. यू हैव टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम टुडे. एक दिन में सब कुछ नहीं होगा. यू कैन नॉट डू एवरीथिंग इन जस्ट वन स्टार्ट और वन गो, बट एवरी एफर्ट काउंट्स, एवरी ड्रॉप काउंट्स, and participation even counts. And though I don't support any political party, but as our Honorable PM Modi ji says, Atmanirbhar, we have to do everything from ourselves only. We have to start from ourselves. Then only we can make a change for the sustainable development. And I'll end with this quote. हमारा environment एक ही है. Like we don't find good things everywhere. Our environment is only one and rare. We should preserve it together for the generations to come. That will be only the sustainable development. That if we start saving our water from today only, then only our future generations can have the facility of that availability of fresh water resource. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was a wonderful session. Now, I would like to request the participants to feel free to write to us and ask their questions. Ma'am, so far we have received one question from Aditya Singh. What is the alternative of refining water without emissions of CO2 in the atmosphere in the countries like UAE and Egypt?
It's mostly about actually the green cover only. There is very less emission of CO2 when actually we are refining water. Because what filters they are using, they are very like towards the green economy only, and they are using sand and gravels for it. So there is least CO2 emission. And talking about UAE and Egypt, yes, we should have a green vegetative cover around. There will be less emission of CO2. So far, we are not using any machinery or something like that. So there is no emission of CO2. All process happening is absolutely natural.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is from Karma sir. He's joining us from Bhutan. He's
Okay.
asking, how is rainwater harvesting sustainable for a landlocked country, especially Bhutan?
Okay, so country can be landlocked, but what we can do, as we have emphasized in my presentation, that we can start rainwater harvesting from our homes only. Because what happens is when we are recharging groundwater, it is not for that particular place only, but when we are recharging the groundwater, that water flows to the nearby aquifers and area. So it flows up to kilometers. So it will be bringing an impact. It will change it. It's not about the landlocked area or what, but whatever area we have in our houses, we can start from there only. And if we are doing at one particular place, it will be sufficing the needs of a lot of surrounding kilometers. So it is not restricted to one particular area only.
Okay, ma'am. He's again asking, any support in pipeline to operate rainwater harvesting project in the neighboring countries?
In the pipeline, no, we don't have with the pipeline. Actually, we have to manage it differently. We have to lay pipelines, a different set of pipelines for this rainwater harvesting, because it is not connected to the direct supply we are getting from the municipality things. So it is the pipeline which we will lay, because these are the down pipes which are collecting our rooftop water or the water which we are transferring to the ground for the recharge. So pipelines are different. From that, we count for the municipality pipelines.
Okay. Ma'am, another question from Mr. Ritesh. What are the scope on rainwater harvesting and on grey water for us towards sustainable future and development?
So, well, we have a lot of scope on this because, as I stated in my presentation, everything in our life revolves around water only. So, if we are having rainwater harvesting, let's say at our places, so we will be having ample of water, because these days every place is getting deprived of groundwater and we are not left with any other water source. So, if we are using that water, and even if we are doing grey water harvesting, that water can be used for the cleaning purpose, for the gardening purposes. So what will happen is that particular water, when we are using after harvesting or grey water treatment, we are actually cutting our demand from the fresh water sources. So in a way, we are saving those water resources and we are using the water which is actually getting waste by the runoff or without treatment. So it is just definitely about to bring a sustainable development in every term.
Okay, ma'am. The next question
Yes,
is
ma'am.
from Mr. Jigme. How can we make the rainwater safe to drink after collecting it?
Yeah. So after collecting it, first of all, we should go by the first flush. We should not collect it immediately after the first rainfall. And secondly, we can go for a sand filter, which we can economically make with the available materials in the surrounding, which include sand, gravel, and some mesh. And that way, we can purify our water and we can use it properly. That is the best alternative and economical as well.
Okay, ma'am. Next question is from Ms. Jyotsna Gandhi. How would you define sustainable development?
Well, talking about sustainable development, according to me, what I believe is sustainable development is the one coming from the word sustainability, that whatever resources, natural resources, which we are using today, we should use in a way that we are not destroying it, or we are not over exploiting it, so that we can preserve or protect those resources for our future generations only. It's not like we are using it today, talking about air pollution or everything, and our future generations are deprived of those things. That will be the perfect definition of sustainable development for me. Any other question, ma'am?
No more questions. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking the questions. And thank you so much for today's session. It was a great pleasure to have you as an expert for today's session. And I'm very much certain and hopeful that today's presentation has provided a better understanding about the various issues and challenges in the rainwater harvesting in India. Your experience has made us aware about the ground level challenges and reality for each and every part of India. The case studies and the relatable examples were from almost every state of India, be it Maharashtra, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Arunachal Pradesh, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, and so many states you have covered. It was very enlightening. The detailed presentations and explanations by you were thought provoking. And I once again thank you, ma'am, for taking out your valuable time on behalf of all the organizers, co organizers, sponsors, and technical partners. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks to you too as well. Thanks to the entire team for having me here.
Thank you, ma'am. And now handing over to Dr. Semwal, Dr. Sunil Semwal, for your concluding remarks, sir. And thank you, everyone. Sir?
Okay. Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Renu. Yeah. S- Very wonderful session by Miss Sakshi. You have well attracted the attention of your our participant toward the real problem and the real solution also. The water crisis is the biggest problem in the current time, and the city like Chennai, Cape Town in South Africa is almost out of groundwater. This is a very alarming situation, and you have very well defined all the methods. You have very well explained all the methodology, and Ms. Sakshi, the method you have explained and talk will surely benefit to us, to our participants, and I am expecting that our participants from different state will be beneficial from this talk. I am very thankful for you for this wonderful
Thank you
section,
so
Sakshi.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
My pleasure indeed.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Hello. I am very thankful for you